We are back. It is March, and I'm calling it Menopause March, just because I like the alliteration. And this month, I really am focusing on diving deep in terms of the guests that I interviewed. I am taking a little course myself. I've read several books, which I can recommend in the show notes. But really, I just wanted to chit-chat about why I think this is something you should look into personally, ideally before you're at the point where you're seeking medical advice, because you're starting to see symptoms that are generally associated with menopause. And really, there's so many symptoms that are crossover, like that are kind of just associated with later stages of life, with being burnt out, with being stressed, overworked. So we have a lot of intersecting realities for women that are 40 plus. And I found it super interesting to learn that you can be showing symptoms, perimenopause can be as early as 35. So this is really it's for women, but I would argue men that love women are also going to want to understand menopause better. This used to be something that it was like a side thing that your mom dealt with that you didn't really need or want to know much about. It was the last few, there was a decade of your mom's or your aunt's or your grandmother's life, that kind of thing. So what's changed? Well, what's changed is how much longer we are living post-menopause. So for most women, hitting menopause is really like the halfway point. I'm 45 in April. And I was just chatting with my mom. She was here visiting, and she had the most of her symptoms sort of started at 55. So I'm not really anticipating having to deal with this. And she shared exactly what her symptoms are, which is a great exercise to do with the female genetically aligned women in your life, your mom, your grandmother, sisters, those kind of things, so that you understand what's ahead. Because I think the number one takeaway, if you haven't already listened to the first podcast this month with Lauren Sharin, she talks about how important it is just to embrace it, right? So I, as you know, talk a lot about mindset and how important that layer is to your mental health, right? If this is something that you're just dreading, and you have all of this negative Nancy narrative around, the death of your sexuality, the death of your reproductive organs, this sort of, a season of life, if you will, that everybody dreads, that's going to affect your mental health when it comes to it, when you hit it, right? Versus start hanging around with women that will tell you that 50 plus have been the best years of their lives, that they're having the best sex of their lives, that sure, there's symptoms, but here are some incredible solutions, some of them being holistic, some of them being maybe you need a prescription for bioidentical hormone therapy. What kind of hormone therapy? Maybe you don't. I highly recommend another podcast. This is really one of the reasons it started to pique my interest. I listened to the quote unquote number one menopause doctor on Diary of a CEO, Dr. Marie Claire Haver. You can find her on Instagram. She is very active and very passionate about educating more women. And she has a very interesting sort of picture to paint of how the traditional medical world talks about women of a certain stage and all their, whiny complaints about things, not working, or weight gain, or depression, or achy joints, arthritis. Literally every system in our body is affected by a shift in hormones. So if it's something that you can mitigate, And even as Dr. Marie Haver was saying, some of these things you can do anticipating. And she actually was talking about how she has her daughters who are, under 40 for sure, 30 somethings are already taking sort of a precursor preventative hormone therapy. I honestly, from my perspective, that seems a bit intense. So this all comes back to something I wanted to bring up just in case you haven't heard. So there's a study called the Women's Health Initiative. It came out in 2002. This was right when, my mom was sort of in the thick of it. And at that time she was living in Europe and she came back to live in Canada again. And the prognosis or the treatment for menopause had just in a drop changed. Why? Because the Women's Health Initiative found at the time that there was a statistically significant increase in breast cancer with hormonal therapy in terms of dealing with symptoms of menopause. Now, it has since been, I wouldn't say debunked, but I would say it has been reframed to point out that it's actually not statistically significant now that we have, 18 plus years looking back and looking at the same group of women, of which was a massive group of women. I believe it was over 24,000 women. So it's not a statistically significant finding unless, you already have a very clear indication in your genetics towards breast cancer and or you already have been diagnosed with breast cancer. At the end of the day, it is a conversation that needs to be had with your medical professional. And as always with anything, the more information you have going in, knowing that there are different conversations, there are different narratives, there are options, knowing the difference between bioidentical and sort of the regular hormone therapy that my mom would have been taking, I believe, back in the day, 20 plus years ago, and just knowing that you have options. And one of those options is holistic treatment, things that you can be doing, again, preventative. So we talked a little bit, Lauren, Sharon, and I, on the first podcast. The podcast that's coming out next week is with my friend Hope Pedraza. She is a nutrition genius. And so we talked all about how important it is to really focus on strength training and what you're eating and maintaining your muscle mass as a very important holistic preventative tool, really to improve your experience and quality of life as you age on all fronts. But it definitely plays into your hormones, having an ongoing battle losing muscle mass, which for so many of us women who grew up in an era of cardio and weight loss is the goal. Sometimes it's hard to reframe that no, we really want to be strong and we want to build muscle, because as of 30, 35, you just start losing muscle mass. And so you're really fighting to maintain it. You have to be extra dedicated to actually be building it post 40. And I've just always just felt so much better. And I remember I had one interview with Catherine Bruni. She's a functional training expert, and there's just so much evidence, and I experienced this even when I was training for a marathon, a direct relationship between your physical strength and how strong you feel emotionally, how confident you feel. I mean, there's the very practical, it's easier for you to sit up straight. It's easier for you to do everything and go about your day. It's just you're stronger, and the physical strength is amplified into a deeper sense of self-confidence, self-worth, an ability, intrinsically and physically to stand up for yourself. There's a very direct relationship to you feeling strong physically and you feeling strong mentally and emotionally. So just so many reasons to focus on getting strong, staying strong at this stage of your life, and really as women at any stage of your life. Yeah, and the other thing that really struck me and really kind of got me all hot and bothered was how many women in the United States and Canada in particular are being diagnosed antidepressants. And this is kind of like a backlash from this, since reframed the Women's Health Initiative study that like immediately fell swoop changed all of the ways doctors were treating menopause. They immediately like made hormone replacement treatment therapy, the evil, it'll increase your chance for breast cancer, but it is a small percentage. And sort of to be the devil's advocate here, as you know, like how I love to be controversial, if you actually look at the percentage of increase that you're going to get potentially from taking hormone replacement therapy, it is very close percentage to how much you're increasing your risk to breast cancer and arguably in all other cancers in the case of alcohol. So that is to say, I know so many women that are not going to make a decision that they're never drinking alcohol again based on a 15 to 25% increase, depending on how many drinks they're having in a week. That's just a non-negotiable. Like they're having wine, right? But then we are told by some, maybe some doctor that there's XYZ percentage, which it hovers, it's a comparable percentage. It's not to say there's no risk. It's you need to make a personal educated decision, knowing all the facts, knowing your family history, knowing like all the other things that you have in your capacity to do from a holistic perspective to mitigate these symptoms before you consider hormone replacement therapy. Like, is it, do you have insomnia because of this? Because long-term insomnia is going to massively increase your risk to so many other things, including like all, what am I trying to say? Lifestyle diseases. So I'm just trying to give you a wider perspective and encourage you to do your homework, get more than one opinion. Does it make sense? Do you need hormone replacement therapy? If so, what does that look like? There are different ways to do it. What are you doing to get stronger? How are you changing your diet potentially to be more in alignment with your long-term goals, how you want to feel now, but also how do you want to experience menopause? Do you have other things in place to help you mitigate the stress of just going through any massive changes in your body? What is your strategy to learn to love your body as it transitions? You're not going to have the same body post-menopause. What does that look like? Can you reignite your relationship with your body so you feel even more sexy, more incredible, more at ease, stronger? Like, I have really found that as I am aging, I just feel better and better. A lot of it, of course, in my case, has to do with my mental health, but my mental health is dramatically improved because I'm making personal decisions on how to live my life more in alignment with wanting to feel great. And so these are all just things to consider. I will leave it at that. Really, really look at if somebody's prescribing you antidepressants for symptoms that could be perimenopausal, menopausal. I really just encourage all women to think twice before you get on antidepressants in a way that they're being presented that this is like your new lifelong solution. They definitely have a place and a purpose for acute solutions or acute problem solving. Again, it's a really, really complicated issue, but I'm just very concerned at the number of women that are being diagnosed with antidepressants before they're being diagnosed hormone replacement therapy, just to give it as an option. Like changing, resetting, reestablishing hormonal balance, to me, would be your first line of action. And along with that, depending on how severe your symptoms are, I guess, from my perspective. First is, what are the holistic tools I can use? If I'm still suffering from XYZ symptoms, let's go talk to a doctor. If hormone replacement therapy is a possibility, what does it look like? If and then all that is still not working, then we talk about taking antidepressants in a long-term format. So, went on and on and on. You know me, love to chat. I'm just going to quickly wrap this up. I was looking on the Johns Hopkins website. It was actually like kind of hit or miss. So according to them, the key points about perimenopause is the time around menopause when your ovaries gradually stop working. I thought the stop working was, not really, it's very technical. And or could we not just say that they're moving into a different stage of their life cycle? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Stop working. Then the second point, according to Johns Hopkins, is this is a natural process that causes physical and emotional symptoms. Boom. Like it, that it's a natural process. Maybe we could elaborate that it can have an effect on every system in our body. Although, physical, it kind of does that. So third point, according to Johns Hopkins, if it does need treatment, better yet, it says it does not need treatment, but treatment can help lessen symptoms. Again, I think this is really a win, emphasizing that treatment is optional, really, giving or helping people maintain their agency over making decisions around this. And again, I'm just hoping that so many, or what I've read is so many women are just kind of being pushed into antidepressants as a solution across the board to many things. And I think there's a better way. And then the last point, according to Johns Hopkins, about perimenopause is that treatment includes hormones, antidepressants, and lifestyle changes. So I think I just went over and made crystal clear what order I think those should be in. Treatment in my mind starts with lifestyle changes, hormone replacement therapy, secondary, antidepressants would be a sort of last resort. And I'm going to link the podcast with Dr. Mary Haver. It was so informative. I'm also going to link all the resources so you can see for yourself what are the percentage increases associated with hormone replacement therapy according to the breast cancer org versus what are the risk factors associated and percentages increased risk when you're drinking alcohol. And just kind of, realize okay, on the one hand, it seems like a shocking statistic, maybe. But if it was something else that you're absolutely not going to consider giving up, well, then you might look at it differently. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it's thought-provoking. I hope you focus on strength training, getting strong. I hope you rediscover your sexuality and just find a beautiful transition into your eternalization, not aging. Aging is a number. Ageless mindset. Are you with me? Thank you for listening. I hope this I hope it inspired you to feel better and embrace all the stages and phases that it is to be an incredible woman, to have a uterus, to have, all these cycles that are, for most of our lives tied to the moon. Moon cycles. Oh my goodness, I'm just going on and on. Should I edit this out? I don't know. I think no. Okay. Love you.